And we are back with part 2 of Elseworlds, where we will be talking about how this is going to lead into next year's event, because as it turns out, it's pretty much just an advertisement, or at least a setup for the next event, and some of the things that stuck out to us. We won't be getting into a review too much, because, I mean, you could just watch it yourself and draw your own conclusions. Watch it on the CW website. All 3 episodes are up now. That is not an advertisement. By the way, check us out at our link at squarespace.com. No.
Okay, but before we start here, check out the link in our description to see part 1 of this sort of 2-part podcast special.
Yes.
For Elseworlds. If you haven't seen Elseworlds already, first of all, see it, but, we did a pretty good sort of intro into Elseworlds as to, like, what to expect going in. So without further ado, we are Utterly Nonsense. This is a podcast that we do on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, a number of other sources. Check us out elsewhere if... wherever you get your podcasts, you can pretty much find us. But, YouTube, I would say, is our sort of main source, so definitely subscribe there. So let's get into it.
All right, let's. So, right off the bat, one of the first things that stuck out to me that I can remember was there's this one part where they're in Arkham Asylum, and they're showing the names on all the doors, and you see a bunch of, Batman's most famous villains there. But one of them was not a Batman villain. One of the names said M. Guggenheim, which is a reference to Mark Guggenheim, who's the showrunner. Did you catch that?
That one I didn't. The one name that really stuck out to me, actually, was Oswald Cobblepot.
Yeah, which, I saw that one, too.
Comes towards... I think that's, like, one of the last ones we see, and just, like, given that he's, the Penguin, like, of course people are going to notice that. Guggenheim, I didn't even notice.
That was a funny little joke thrown in.
On it. Yeah, you gotta love, like, the little Easter eggs to the audience there. So I guess just to dive right in here, what real nitpicks did you have with the whole thing? Because I know we were mentioning before we started recording here, we each had our own sort of issues with the whole thing.
Right. Well, one of the big ones I had was they make no reference to Barry's daughter, nor Alan. She just makes no appearances. No one asks where she is. There's just simply 0 references, as if she doesn't exist at all. Yeah,
that really bugged me in retrospect. Didn't bug me as much, like, while I was watching the actual special. But yeah, I mean, that absolutely sticks out like a sore thumb. Just especially considering how much, like, how integral of a part she's been in this entire season. Definitely a weird choice. Beyond that, I mean, part 3, I think, is ripe with nitpicks. There were a few things that really bugged me about the whole thing. So, I mean, you probably noticed a few of these things. Well, first of all, just the way the Book of Destiny was handled. The fact that only Superman could handle it, I didn't really understand the whole reasoning behind that. It feels like any character could have. Beyond that, the fact that John Deegan made it really clear that he was only able to see a very limited amount of the whole lore between Supergirl and Superman, but yet he completely copied the entire Metropolis universe into there, like the fact that a bunch of those characters were in here.
Right. Yeah, like how did her sister get there when, according to him, his own words, all he knew of Supergirl and Superman was their fight with Mazo, who, by the way, was the weird robot that I didn't know who it was at first. He was the freaking Mazo robot from Justice League. He's more closely resembles the one from the Justice League cartoon, which I thought was cool, but he doesn't talk or anything. He just kind of copies their powers.
So, I mean, that was sort of the Amazo from Young Justice, except it would say, like, access and then the actual hero name before he actually used the powers. So, I definitely, like, a little bit of, I don't know what you call that, appealing to the fans. Definitely a cool reference for anyone who's familiar with other DC TV series. I liked Amazo.
Yeah, he's essentially just there as a thing for Superman and Supergirl to fight, and it works. Everyone fights it, and it's a cool scene.
Yeah, I fully agree. But the other thing that really bugged me, specifically about Part 3, was, like, John Deegan could have chosen to be anyone, and yet he chose to be Superman for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, this character that supposedly has barely existed in this universe, but, chose to completely emulate him as...
Well, they had to set up somebody for Superman to fight at the end, and who better than himself?
I don't know, that whole thing sort of bugged me.
Yeah.
But, yeah, beyond that, there were, like, a few things from Part 3. I keep forgetting what the guy's name is, but, Mutton Black guy, what's his name?
Who? The Monitor?
Yeah. I could have sworn he had, like, an actual, like, formal name beyond...
Yeah, he had a name, but it doesn't matter. It's just...
Okay,
Monitor guy.
So him, he made this whole point, like, when Oliver Queen actually confronted him the second time, that in order for John Deegan to, like in order for the Flash and Supergirl to actually survive, like, trying to slow down time, and I know you have your own issues with that, but in order for him to stop them from, like, physically burning into a million pieces while they were doing that, some sacrifices had to be made, and yet there were absolutely no sacrifices made.
Yeah.
Like, why even include that exact moment? Why even put the stakes on the table if you're just not going to make any reference as to why the stakes don't matter?
Yeah, well, first of all, what we're talking about is they have to get the book away from this evil Superman, who is just the mad scientist guy. He made it so that he rewrote reality so that he looked and had the same powers as Superman, but in a black suit. So in order to get the book away from him so they can rewrite reality, they had to slow down time, I guess, so he wouldn't react fast enough, even though Superman could, theoretically. But that aside...
I don't know. Even still, like, Superman was able to save Lois Lane from, like, dying because he was fast enough to, like, react during that time frame, so...
Right, so...
Oh, my God.
What we see happen, they slow down time in a very particular, nostalgic way. If you ever watched the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, remember when he flies around the Earth and turns back time by reversing the orbit? Same thing this time, except they just kind of grind it to a halt. I think we've already described how ridiculous this is. Like, there's no physics to it. It's just pure schlock. It's fantasy. All right, whatever. Get past that. So, the thing about the sacrifice that had to be made is Barry and Supergirl, they were basically disintegrate from moving so fast. So Oliver makes like a plea to the Monitor's humanity. He says, look, these are good guys. We can't lose them, because if we do, then we're going to lose whatever upcoming ominous thing that you're saying you're testing us for. So then what's the whole point of the test? And I agreed with him. Like, what is the point of any of this? Why are you going through and destroying all these Earths that you're supposed to be trying to prepare for something that's going to destroy all these Earths?
Yeah. Which, I gotta tell you, Barry's definitely moved faster than that before, so how the hell was moving at that speed, like, enough to completely burn him in the original timeline?
Because reasons.
It's completely absurd.
Oliver convinces the Monitor to not allow them to die, and he gets a magic arrow to shoot into the bad Superman, and it break his book, and then they win.
Yeah, it's like all his problems could be solved by just shooting a fucking arrow into this book.
Yeah, also he gets to move at normal speed in the slow time.
It's really like a ridiculous ending when you think about it.
Yeah. What else stuck out? We don't actually get to see John Wesley Shipp too much. He just kind of just gets poofed away. That was a little bit disappointing.
They really underused him, which they built him up so much in the marketing. So it's such like a waste of like such a great actor, you know.
Yeah, well, they got you to watch it, didn't they? They got me to watch it.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I would have seen it regardless of him being in it, but like that seems like a massive tease to fans.
That's something that bugged me a little bit. They call it Elseworlds, but there's nothing really Elseworlds about it. It's just topsy-turvy world.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of get a little bit of it in the third act there, but
yeah,
even that seems pretty minimal and all. Like when you're thinking about it all together.
Yeah. He makes John Wesley Shipp Flash makes a reference that John Diggle is Green Lantern on his Earth, which was a fan theory originally that John Diggle's name was actually like John Stewart Diggle or something like that, and that he'd be Green Lantern eventually.
Weird. Okay, so let's see, a few things. So what do you think of the Lois Lane and like this continuity, because I think this is her first appearance. I haven't really watched Supergirl all too much, but
yeah, I think it is her first appearance. Sure, personality is fine. I think it's all right. I think she looks a little weird. There's just something about her face that I see, and I just go, "What's wrong with her face?"
Yeah, no,
it sounds a little shallow, but there's just like take her and compare her to Erica Durance from Smallville, and there's just a little discrepancy there for me.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely getting that same sense. Like, I think she was fine in the role, certainly better than, like, Amy Adams in the DCEU, but,
Yes, your most hated Amy Adams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on record as saying I think she's the worst casting in all of the DCEU, and I stand by that firmly, but, yeah, I mean, this new Lois Lane, I can't name the actress for the life of me, but she was fine in the role.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that one sort of like reference to Smallville in the first episode?
Oh, that was amazing. Okay, so Barry and Oliver, currently in their switched states, they beam over to Supergirl Earth, and then it shows the Kent farm, and you hear the freaking Smallville theme playing. I was like, yeah, it's back! I thought I was going to see Tom Welling run on the screen and see John Schneider and Annette O'Toole and everything. But,
yeah, just like
just
completely revive Smallville. So, do you think that means that like the Supergirl Earth, I think it's Earth 38, is actually the Earth depicted in Smallville? Do you think that's sort of the reference they're going for? Or?
I was thinking about that, but it can't be because the Supergirl in Smallville went to the future to be with the Legion of Superheroes.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I know it didn't fully match up, but at the very least, it was a nice nod.
Very good nod.
I think they did use the same set for the Kent farm that they used in Smallville, so that was a really nice touch.
Yeah, they even had when Lois Lane went into the barn and she went up the step ladder. That was the same one that Clark would go up to his little hideaway, I think.
Right. No, I'm pretty sure you're right. Okay, so like we're already 12 minutes in. Let's get into actual talk about like the next crossover.
Ooh, yeah, so
like what this really sort of set up.
What is the Monitor preparing them for? And he says a big thing is coming that you're not going to be able to handle unless you really get your shit together. All of these other Earths didn't get their fucking shit together. You guys seem that you might be on the right track. So there's, as we said in the last episode, there's the Monitor and there's Anti-Monitor. And the last title card we see at the end is Coming Fall 2019 Crisis on Infinite Earths. And
so I mean, yeah, when you really think about it, this whole thing was just an advertisement for next year's crossover.
Pretty much. It's like a Marvel movie where you sit all the way through until the end, and then it says, go watch the next movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Essentially. So the Anti-Monitor is like this universe destructor. He just wants to destroy all of creation. I'm not exactly sure why. It's a plot device. You don't have to think about it too much.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, like in most of the continuities, you see the Anti-Monitor, and his whole goal is like he's absorbing matter because like that's what he needs to sustain himself. Like he lives off anti.
So like Galactus, but even bigger.
Yeah, basically. As far as I know, he's like primarily a Green Lantern villain, and I know the Green Lantern animated series from Cartoon Network. He was like the main villain in one of the seasons. I think it was the second season. He was the main villain, the Anti-Monitor.
Yes, in the animated series. That was a good show.
But yeah, it was a good show. Honestly, it seems kind of odd to me to make that the main villain for like Crisis on Infinite Earths, but I think
he was in the original Crisis on Infinite Earths comic event.
Yeah, I mean, you'd know better than I would.
So
honestly, I'm spacing out on like the original details, even though like it couldn't have been like that long ago that I read the thing. But
I
fully can't remember.
So the Anti-Monitor was the original villain for that, and he uses this other guy who we see at the very end called Psycho Pirate, who has the ability to manipulate emotions or something like that. So he kind of Herald style imbues this guy with some power so he can help bring down the defenses of all the worlds that he goes to just suck up. So that guy's going to have some part in it. And now the whole point of the Infinite Earths thing was to kind of rein in the whole DC universe, because they had all these inconsistencies at the time. And so it was to kind of bring all of it into one continuity. So that makes me think that by the end of next year, there won't be all these alternate Earths anymore. Supergirl, Arrow, Flash, Black Lightning even, they're all going to be in one Earth. That's my theory.
Okay, that's actually pretty interesting. Yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, Crisis on Infinite Earths was sort of like an excuse to stabilize some of the like retconning that went on throughout DC Comics. It was sort of an excuse to just make everything sort of seem like it made sense.
Yeah. Oh, funny enough, I think both Supergirl and Barry Allen Flash died during that event, which I think is what the what Monitor said, or whatever they saw that they were supposed to die was kind of alluding to. Because remember, there's that one cover with Superman holding Supergirl in his arms, and I think Barry Allen, I don't know, he becomes a lightning bolt or runs himself to death or something. Although that might have been a different event.
I mean, that sounds familiar, but I might be mixing up DC continuity there, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's DC TV. I'm anxious to see this whole thing when it eventually comes out, but...
Honestly, when I was watching it, like, just knowing the future of all of that and looking at all these characters, like, we finally had Superman on screen again, and I think I'm accepting him a little bit more. He really needs the S-curl.
Yeah, no, he was definitely better in this.
He needs the S-curl.
I don't need the S-curl. Honestly, I'm getting more used to Tyler Hoechlin. Is that the guy's name? Hoechlin?
Hecklin.
I can't... Hecklin?
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't sound right.
I checked his Twitter, and he said that's how to pronounce it.
Yeah, well, I'm getting used to him as Superman. Like, he seems likable at the very least. Like, I don't know. He's fine in the role.
You sure you still don't want to beat the shit out of him?
Okay.
He's pretty buff, actually. I looked at it. He was in this movie about bodybuilding called Bigger, and he's actually pretty well sized.
Yeah, I mean, again, when I said that, I was purely being metaphorical. Like, compared to Henry Cavill, he's a small dude.
Don't worry. He already knows. He knows about you.
Yeah.
He's waiting for your challenge.
But, yeah, so, like, we're already nearly 20 minutes in. Did you have any ending thoughts, or?
Yeah, I was saying, like, I think this Arrowverse is, like, the closest thing we have now to the original DCAU, the animated universe with all the Bruce Timm stuff.
Sure.
And just watching through and thinking about it, I don't know why. Like, I almost got teared up. I'm like, they've really come a long way from a vigilante Batman Begins type thing all the way up to all of this powers and cosmic things and whatnot. Like, I don't even need the movies anymore. Forget the Justice League movie. Forget another Justice League movie. This is fine. Let Marvel have the movies. DC's got the TV right.
Yeah.
Well, mostly right. It still has some CW issues, but that'll always be there.
I mean, it sort of suffers from its low budget. It sort of suffers from its campiness. It sort of suffers from, I feel like the whole second act was just an excuse to bring Batwoman into the Arrowverse. And, like, I think she's getting her own series out of this whole thing, so.
Yeah. Oh, funny thing, they conveniently explain away Batman not being there by just saying he's been gone for 3 years.
Yeah.
No one knows why, but...
I don't know.
I guess he's waiting for Gotham to be canceled.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm waiting for them to tie that whole thing together. Like, some part of me thinks that Gotham Bruce Wayne is Arrowverse Bruce Wayne, just at different points in time.
Oh, that's another thing I noticed. Supergirl said her Superman knows Batman, and yet there's also Batman in the Arrow universe, so there's two Batman.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, there must be I don't know, like, that just screwed with the timeline a little more, like, I mean, yeah, it's a nice little nod to fans, but it makes absolutely no sense in the context of the show. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess by applying basic logic to it, there must be a Batman in her universe, but at the same time, why would it make any sense for her to say that to Batwoman?
I don't know. I guess she just had a hunch that she was Batwoman.
It's just such a weird reference to make, Well,
they were talking about Batman. She said, "Oh yeah, my cousin." Yeah. Oh no, she said my cousin knew Bruce Wayne. They were talking about Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And at that point, they knew who each other were. Yeah. And then they shook hands.
As if it weren't obvious already. So without further ado, I think we've broken this down about as much as we can.
Yeah, I mean that's about all there is to say about the future crossover. Is it's going to be big, and there's going to be some major consequences.
So without further ado, if you guys like what you heard here, this is the Utterly Nonsense Podcast. You can follow us here or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, etc., etc. And if you have any suggestions as to what we can do in future episodes, feel free to leave a comment somewhere, or follow us on social media and leave a comment there.
Yeah, I think in 2019 we might be changing our format a little bit, try to get these more focused, timely. Yeah. So, hopefully we'll do even better in our second year of nonsensing.
Yeah. Okay. And cue that 8-bit outro.
Somebody say